Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline, this is Made with Books, and today I am here with another review of one of the books that I read for the first round of the BookTube prize. I'm filming outside again. I have a different angle. I'm not trying to advertise for Purcell, that's just the RV of my parents-in-law. So yeah. The book I'm talking about today is Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. And this is Julia Phillips' debut novel. She has published both fiction and non-fiction in magazines before, but this is her debut novel. It is set in Kamchatka, which is a peninsula of Russia, all the way in the east of Russia. And Phillips actually spent a year there on a fellowship herself. The book, if you don't know where Kamchatka is, the book is I knew it, but it's sort of helpful. It has a little map that, I hope you can see that, shows you the peninsula, and it also shows you on the globe where it is located. And another thing the book has that I found helpful actually is the principal characters listed, so you sort of know who, because they are kind of, you jump a lot between characters, and so it's kind of helpful to go back and see how they are connected and who is who. So I found that very helpful. So with saying what this book is about, immediately there comes, like, that is the one trigger warning I would give. If you don't want to read about that subject, you need to steer clear of it. And the book deals with the disappearance, or rather kidnapping, of two sisters, Sophia, who's 8 years old, and Iona, who is 11 years old, and also with the repercussions and developments that come from that. Now, the way the book is set out is that the individual chapters are month. So you start with the month of August, you don't have a specific year, and in August you get the two sisters. So you get the perspective of the older sister, and they are both walking on the beach, spending time by themselves. Their mom is a single parent and has to work, so they are out and about. And the chapters continue for a whole year. So the book ends in July of the next year. So for each month you have a chapter, and with each chapter you have the perspective of a different character that you see the events through in that particular chapter. Now, with the first chapter, that was definitely the hardest to read, because the sisters, as I said, they are walking on this beach, and they just, minding their own business, and there's a man there who pretends he has injured himself, and who gets the girls to help him to his car, and then offers to take them home. And you can guess where things go from there. And it was so uncomfortable to read that first chapter. You just want to scream at them, just go away, run away, and they don't. They get into the car and they drive off, and that's where we leave them. With all the other chapters, I'm not going to get into all of the chapters because, well, then you don't have to read the book anymore. But I think that with this first chapter, it's probably good to know that this is what happens, because if this is a subject that, would trigger you, steer clear of it. With the other chapters, you get all kinds of different perspectives. One, for example, is that of Ksenia, or also called Ksyusha, who is from Esso, a town up north. And the town that the girls was kidnapped in is called Petropavlovsk. And I think it's the biggest city in Kamchatka, if I understood correctly. It's far south. So you have this map, sort of tells you where the different places are. So if you look, Esso is up here. And Ksenia, one of the other characters in this novel, is from Esso, but she's a student. She's studying at the university in Petropavlovsk. And you get things through her perspective, like I said, for one chapter. She has a very, very overbearing boyfriend. He's very to a certain extent he's concerned for her safety, but he's very controlling. He wants to know where she is all the time. He wants her to be home at a certain time in the evening. So very, very controlling. It's very uncomfortable to read about as well. And Ksiusha, or Ksenia, decides to carve out a little liberty for herself by starting to take native dance classes at the university in her free time. She herself is a native. She is from the, I think it's pronounced Even folk. And so she takes these dance classes. She meets another guy there who is a lot nicer than her boyfriend. She actually cheats on her boyfriend with him, which, granted, that's a bit iffy, but at the same time you're sort of like, he's so horrible, you don't really care, which, you know, it's not okay, but still. And already with this chapter you can see a lot of the themes that Julia Phillips tackles in this novel. One is the relationship between man and women. You have a lot of sort of traditional masculinity, sort of chauvinism in here, toxic masculinity. You have another chapter where a woman joins some friends for a New Year's Eve party, and it's sort of almost expected of her to hook up with a guy, and she's sort of frowned upon when she doesn't want to. So you have those kind of things. You have with Ksenia being of one of the native people of the island, you have the issue of the natives versus the white or Caucasian Russians. You have racism in that as well, against natives, but also against foreigners that are not off the island, but, you know, come on the island. Sort of suspicions that, you know, the girls that were kidnapped maybe were taken by somebody and taken off the island, so it had to be a foreigner, that idea. And you have a certain exoticism as well with regards to natives. There's another chapter where a woman is staying at home with her baby and she's kind of frustrated. She wants to go back to work, but she's staying at home. She's being a stay-at-home mom for the time being, and she fantasizes about these construction workers who are natives and sort of has these sort of exoticizing fantasies. So already in that chapter that is just about Ksenia, you can see these issues that go throughout the novel, and the seclusion as well that the island has with regards to people from outside the island, that the island for a long time was very secluded, people wouldn't come on there. Things have changed a bit in that regard, and you know, opening up a little bit more. So that's one thing. Another thing is that Ksenia, the town that she's from, Esso, a girl that she only distantly knew, she didn't really closely know her or anything, but a girl there a couple of years ago disappeared as well. Her name was Lilia, and she also was a native. She wasn't in the capital, and it sort of brought up that, you know, the police are looking very intently at who took the girls, what happened to them. They are like really investigating, whereas with Lilia that really didn't happen. Some other themes the book tackles, not in this particular chapter but throughout the novel, it deals with homophobia, which of course is a big deal in Russia, being illegal, and the implications of that. It shows what it's like to be a single parent, how you're perceived by other parents, particularly other mothers who, there's this one mother who is married and has kids who sort of looks down upon single moms, and, you know, the girls that were kidnapped, their mom was single and had to work, how that is looked at. And Lilia that I mentioned, we also get in a later chapter not her perspective but the perspective of her sister Natasha, who deals with the disappearance of her sister in a way that she believes that her sister ran away from home. And you already can see how people deal differently in that family with the disappearance of one of the sisters. So the other sister that is still there, she just assumes that her sister ran away, that her family life was too intense, the mom was very controlling, and that the sister just decided to run away. her brother has gotten really into all these conspiracy theories and alien abduction and all that kind of thing, seems to be coping in that way. And her mother believes that the daughter was kidnapped, but sort of has given up and stopped looking because the police weren't helping her. So you can really see how the disappearance of a child affects everybody. And the interesting thing is, you don't get the perspective of the moms of the two girls until the penultimate chapter, so very, very late in the book. And I kept waiting for that one to come, and it didn't, so that was interesting. And all these chapters are sort of loosely connected to the disappearance of the girls, so some will like mention it in passing. You will also get the perspective of a woman that actually saw the girls get into the car but didn't think anything of it in that moment, and told the police what she saw, but she remembers very little because, you know, just a cursory glance and you don't think anything weird is going on. And with regards to her chapter, her name is Oksana, the woman that saw the girls being taken, and she loses her dog in that chapter. The boyfriend of her best friend was supposed to, I think, drop something off at her flat or something, but he left the door open and the dog ran away and disappeared. And you can see her like frantically looking for the dog and not finding it, and you already see how devastating the loss of this animal is for her, and then on how much of a larger and grander scale the disappearance of obviously your own kids must feel. Something that I didn't realize while I was reading it, but realized when I looked back to film this review, is that actually all of the chapters are told from a female perspective. So I thought that was very interesting. You do have some male characters that are not unimportant, of course, but you get the narration through female perspectives exclusively. So I thought that was an interesting choice. Overall, I thought this was an engaging read, and a good debut at that. I still ranked it in a 5th place. Partly the reason is, like I said, you only get every character once, every character's perspective. So in every chapter you have a different character. And although you sort of have these like little narratives, with some characters you want to go back and learn more about them. And you just don't. You encounter them again in other chapters, but either as side characters or from somebody else's perspective. And it's almost felt more like interconnected stories or short stories to extent of. It does work as a novel, definitely, but you know, you could market it as interconnected stories at the same time. You get kind of these snippets of life of people, and with some you would have just, you know, liked to stay a little longer or gone back to them. And I think also in the sense of, I mean, I mentioned some of the topics Phillips tackles in this novel, and she does have a lot of balls in the air and a lot of themes, and with some of them, like for example the homophobia, she has that in one chapter shortly, but then she doesn't really go back to it. So I think with some of these it would have been nice to go back again, or tell a fuller picture and not just try to get as many things in to this rather slim book as possible. The ending I thought was an interesting choice. I didn't mind the ending. I think I was very much okay with it. I'm just not so sure if it is the most realistic or most likely ending that the author chose, and that's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, like I said, some themes could have been fleshed out a bit more, but I still enjoyed it. I would still recommend it if you think it sounds interesting to you. That's all I have for this one, I guess. If you have read this book, let me know what you think, particularly with regards to the ending. I would be curious to know. If you do want to read it, let me know as well, or if you have any other thoughts on it in the comments down below, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye!